Hey everybody, Cindy Teevens here, creator of the Ego to Enlightenment Workshop and author of Alchemy and the Happiness Lie. And we are in the Ego to Enlightenment Workshop right now, running until September 20th. You can join us at egoworkshop.com. And I'm going to cover some questions that I've been asked. And number one is, what is ego? Number two is, what does it mean to keep it real? What is real? I am the spiritual facilitator who keeps it real. That's what I say. That's what I sign off as. And what does it mean? Well, number one, it means a few things, but number one is my pet peeves are spiritual stories and concepts that don't satisfy, that don't resolve things, that don't lead us to the truth, that we can hold on to and cling to and proudly, parrot. We've heard some really good sounding spiritual stories and things and ideas that we can parrot, we can speak because we've heard someone else speak it, but we don't actually know it. And so I'm all about getting it in your bones, getting it real, getting it in your cells, as a lot of people say, is that they know it intellectually, they know it mentally, but they want it where they can't ever lose it again. That's really what they're saying. And so how do you do that? You got to get it real and you got to keep it real. You'll understand that more and more as you listen to these broadcasts. I talk very often about the movie in the mind, the unreal, illusory movie in the mind, and the difference between that and what I'm calling real, for now anyway. And everybody can tell, everybody knows this. You can prove that to yourself with one question. If I ask you to imagine a pink polka dot elephant, can you? Can you think of a pink polka dot elephant? What happened? Did you see one? Yeah, you probably did. You had a flash. Either it was a still picture, could have been a moving picture. I could ask you to think about a moving pink polka dot elephant. What happens? And so you have this movie in the mind playing, but I'll ask you, is it real? Is there a pink polka dot elephant moving or not moving? Here, is it real? And unless you're schizophrenic, you have the ability to know the difference between what's in the mind and what's real. What people don't realize is they all are familiar with the voice in the head, the critic, the terrorist of the mind. There's all kinds of pet names for it, far too many, for the same thing. And what that is thought, and thought is part of the movie in the mind. And it's the loudest one that we deal with. But what a lot of people don't realize is the movie in the mind is not just thought. It's not just movies. It's still shots. It's smells. It's tastes. It's sounds. That if I start to talk about a melting ice cream cone that you have to lick before it drips, the sweetness and the coldness, your mouth may start to water. You may have a physiological response to that because the body-mind doesn't know the difference between the movie in the mind and the reality. And it will respond accordingly to either. And that's where we get confused. We think that because we're having a physiological response, because we're having a feeling that it's real and true and important, and we're not discerning, no, wake up. It's a movie in the mind. It's not actually happening. Another example is if someone says to you, oh, you cut your hair. But what you hear is, they hate my hair. Oh my God, they don't ever like anything. I shouldn't have asked them. This is a movie in the mind playing. It is not what is said. It is not what is heard, actually. But it is what's heard. It's heard in the mind. Okay, so when I sign off and I say keep it real, I want you to do the reality check, which I'm teaching here, how to know the difference between what's real and what's a movie in the mind. And you do that by coming to your senses. Feeling your feet into the top of your head, taking in your peripheral vision, and notice, yo, hey, you're breathing. Notice the breath moving in and moving out. And when you do that, you can see what's real is what's actually happening, what you're seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, sensing, actually sensing. And you know the difference between that and the movie in the mind. Somebody asked me, can I explain how did I recognize our movie in the mind? And I'm not sure if you mean the movie in the mind generally, because a lot of people don't even know there is one, and so that's a valid question. Or are you talking about how do I recognize somebody else's movie in the mind? See, I'm not so sure here. I'd have to do a mind read to answer this question. But I can answer it from both sides just to cover both sides. Right now, I'm going to go and see who we have with us live. Anybody here? Because I am broadcasting live off of my Facebook page, and I will soon be sharing that into the Facebook group where all of our members are. And I think Anita is there because she just commented. Look at that. We have Bonnie, Mike, Jerry, Sherry. Hello, everybody. And I'm just going to take a moment here to share that into the group in case people in the group are waiting and don't know where it is. Okay, here we go. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here today. So where was I? Yeah, so back to the question. Can you explain how did you recognize our movie in the mind? I'm going to start with my own, how I came to realize there was a movie in the mind. I guess there's been a few things, but one that stands out the most astounding to me was my cat. I was in the kitchen, this was a long time ago, and I was just cutting vegetables and everything was fine. And the next thing I know, I'm on the floor, bawling my eyes out, suffering. And that went on until the cat came over and licked my nose. And it shocked me out of it. And I saw, oh, cat, oh, kitchen, oh, floor. I'm on the kitchen floor. What am I doing on the floor? What just happened? And it all happened fairly quickly. And I knew that I was chopping vegetables. And the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. When you go into the movie in the mind very strongly, very powerfully with all your powers, we're going to be talking about the 5 powers you were born with, but don't know you have. When you do that, you become unconscious. Unconscious to this moment, unconscious to what is actually going on. This is how you can drive across the city, get to the other side, and not remember the trip. This is how you can yell and scream at somebody and say words you don't remember saying. So unconsciousness is the cause of our arguments, our crimes, our wars, and we need to wake up. Each and every one of us is needed to wake up. So there were other little recognitions, I'll say, because we seem to get a lot. We get little ones, and if eventually we get like, boom, hit with a big one. Well, that was a big one for me. It was a very big one. That really started me wondering, what is going on here? What is going on? And so I started to pay attention. And the more that I paid attention, the more and more often I saw this happening. And at first, I started to go into what I see other people do, which is they start to go into, oh my God, I was doing it again. I never knew this before. I wish I didn't know. I wish I could go back to not knowing. And that's not true. Unconsciously, suffering unconsciously is no fun. And it's not good for the body. And so in the beginning, we become aware that we've been unconsciously suffering. But the key there is to remember not to go into unconscious suffering again. Is to, instead of lamenting it and going into another story, enjoy it. Enjoy being awake in this moment. Be grateful and thankful that you are awake. Okay. And how did I recognize, say, movies in other people's minds? There's a way to know. When it's like they're yelling and screaming and you're not even there. Everybody's had that experience. You say something and they don't hear it, or it doesn't seem to matter to them. You give them black and white proof against what they're saying and it doesn't register. They are so contracted, so absorbed, so lost in the movie, they can't hear anything else. There's other little tip-offs too. Like if you're speaking face-to-face with someone, but they're not looking at you at all, ever. And they are all over in the picture, in the movie, watching and following the movie. And then, oh, Do you get it? You come back to you for a moment. It's a very strange phenomenon once you start to become aware of it. Okay, hope that helps. Hope that answers. Let's see if anybody live has any questions. Bonnie, Mike, Jerry, Sherry, and whoever else, 8 people are on. Thanks for joining today. Any questions there, guys? You know, this is your chance. We have a few good ones though, so I have no shortage of things to talk about. So someone asked, what are some good virtues and values to hold yourself responsible for every day? And if you don't, how can you repent to yourself and forgive yourself for not? Now, this is a bit of a trap. Virtues and values, if you set yourself up to, I'm never going to yell, I'm never going to hurt, I'm never going to whatever, and then you fail, then you will beat yourself up even more. And then you have the problem of needing to forgive yourself, as you've just presented here. And so rather than cultivate necessarily directly virtues and values by saying, I'm going to do this, I am so going to do this, it's much easier and more effective to learn to come to your senses, to wake up out of the movie, to stay out of the movie. And when you feel a bad feeling, instead of believing it, you check, you do the reality check, and you wake up. And when you do that, the good virtues and values, they come automatically, naturally. The absolute best thing that could come out of that moment will come out of that moment. Because you're not absorbed in the conditioned movie of the mind. You're not repeating the same old patterns and habits. Something new and creative can arise to take care of the moment. It's really rather fun. And if you don't do as well as you would like, retrospectively, you'll be thinking. You'll be running a movie in the mind, thinking about what happened. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Wake up. Don't do that. It's enough to know, and you know, that you would have preferred to act differently or speak differently, or even don't do anything and just wait. Fine, good enough. Practice it now. Just wait. Let this storm pass. It will pass. Because this not forgiving yourself is nothing more than just another movie. And you're just engaging in another movie. Yourself does not live in the mind. This is not who and what you are. And that's going to be the next topic, which is what is ego, okay? Your existence, your reality is not limited to between the ears. You're not alive just between the ears here. There's much more to you than that. And that's primarily where we find the movie in the mind is like hovering around the head. How can you move on after forgiving yourself for doing a real selfish act? If you have forgiven yourself, how could you not move on? And it wouldn't be a forgiving of yourself. It would be forgiveness, period. When you realize that what you thought happened, never happened only as a movie in the mind, then there's compassion for yourself and for others. That what you acted on was a movie, not the reality. And that what you thought happened didn't. Then there's not even, it's the ultimate in forgiveness. There's not even anything to forgive. So the best thing you can do for any past acts that you now find selfish is to wake up. This is the best you can do now. Wake up now and going forward. Make that a virtue and a value, but not just a thought. Actually do it. Come to your senses. Get real. Keep it real. Okay. Hey, Ray. Thanks for joining us and popping in. And Louise, too. Okay. All right. Next question. Right in the community. We have a number of them. I usually do 4 and 40, 4 questions in 40 minutes or less. And I don't know if I can do that today. We'll find out. So my question to you that I asked today is, what's your idea of what ego is? And some people put up a lot of different ideas. And one is Someone said this looked like a simple question until I tried to answer it. I think it is the conditioned mind, conditioned by perceived experience, family, culture, society. And then the ego sees itself as separate. Okay. First, it's a conditioned mind, but then it's a thing that sees itself as separate. What is that? So the conditioned mind itself is not the problem. There is a conditioned mind, I shall agree. But that's not the problem in and of itself. If there was a conditioned mind that was just doing what it did and you didn't care, it'd be no problem. You're close when you say the ego sees itself as separate, but what is ego? Okay, what is ego? It's not merely the conditioned mind. Somebody else says, your spiritual self, which deems what you hold dear and the standards you want to be. That's a different outlook on the word ego. Most people want to kill their ego, get rid of it. And this is what the spiritual sages and teachers of times gone by and current times are saying. They're not going out there exactly saying kill your ego, but yeah, everybody wants to be free from ego. And now this perspective is it's your spiritual self, which holds you to higher standards. I would not agree with that, because anything that holds you to a higher standards, this is a thought. Okay, you shouldn't have done that, you should have done that. It's like your conscience, the little evil and the little angel on your shoulder. That battle, that perpetual battle that people think they need to engage in. And the message here is you don't need to engage in that. You need to make mind your friend. Mind is not your spiritual self, and it's not your evil self. Mind is mind. And if we give it more reality than that, we're in trouble. Because now you'll start to battle between trying to control, have only good thoughts and never bad thoughts. And this will fail. Inevitably, this will fail. Mary said, ego is experiencing who you are as separate and defending that separate construct as if one is separate. You're kind of close there. You're kind of close. You're close to where Sherry was, who was saying the ego sees itself as separate. Okay. Ego. The original meaning of ego is I. Just I. Why do we talk about a spiritual ego then? Why do we talk about killing the ego? See, the ego, taken in the spiritual sense, it does point to your identity, and I points to your identity. Ego points to your identity, and what the ego is that everybody wants to get rid of is a case of mistaken identity. Okay, it's when you mistake yourself for thoughts, for the body, for the movie in the mind. And that's not what I is. And so that's why in this course called Ego to Enlightenment, ego meaning the sense, the erroneous sense of a separate self, me as a separate being. As soon as you have me as a separate being, you're scared, because this me as a separate being is very tiny. Very big world and a big unknown world. And so this ego must go. It's not real. And it's the cause of all our problems, all our fears, all our angers, all our attacks, all our insults. Okay. Take it on further, all our wars, all our atrocities. And so we do the work here in the efforts to go from ego to enlightenment. And I will discuss on another call what enlightenment is also. One other thing about me getting real here is that I get very specific and particular about the words that I use and what they mean, so that they're very clear and we're on the same page. And you know that they're not just some kind of fluffy story that I'm trying to sell you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I don't need to sell you anything. You already have the truth. You already have the reality. I can only help you realize it. So that's what I'm all about. That's what getting real is all about. And we can address and will address issues from the so-called mundane material world all the way to the spiritual world, because there's no separation. And if I help on the sort of mundane world side, that can release you for more important things, because that's what happened to me. I was doing so much suffering about being dumped that something had to happen. Suicide arose as an idea, but my father died that way, and I promised him it would not be for nothing, and my whole family. So that was out of the option. I had to find another way out. And it was only through discovering the movie in the mind, disconnecting from it, discovering the joy within, that freed me from trying to get anything from the world and trying to prevent anything from the world. That freed all of my attention, my interest, my time, my energy, everything. I didn't want anything more of the world because I was completely satisfied. Except for one thing, I didn't understand the world. I didn't know, how did we get here? What are we doing here? Where do we go from here? What happens after death? What is birth? All of those existential questions that humanity has struggled with can be answered, can be known by you. It can't be taught by anybody, but it can be recognized because it's real. That which is real cannot be taught. It just is. It's just the truth. But because it is not other than you, it is your birthright. And this will end all the fear, all the struggle, all the strife. And it's gratitude that drives me now. So, once again, we are in the Ego Workshop. My name is Cindy. You can join the Ego Workshop at ego.com. Get your friends to join. Until we close, which is the 20th of September. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to go and see if there's any other questions in the group. And I'm not seeing any more. Actually, I'm having trouble finding the video. It's here somewhere. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anybody. And here we go. And I cover any comments that people may have or questions. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the hearts. It's funny, I'm not seeing comments. Having a little technical difficulties. It happens. Thank you for your patience. And I know I need to go over to my profile in order to see you all. Happy long weekend to everybody. I believe it's a Canadian and American long weekend. So there we go. Bonnie, Mike, Sherry. Okay, I don't see any new questions. I will let you go. I thank you for being here, for your time. Have a great weekend, and you know what to do until we meet. Whoops, we got a question. Snuck in just at the last minute there, Sherry. Okay, it's a good question. How do we feel compassion without suffering? Wow, this is a really great question, you know, because what is compassion? Again, I'm going to get real about the words that we use. What is compassion? Compassion is the wish that another not suffer, is it not? Nobody wants anybody to suffer, and we've suffered, so we understand, we can relate. All right, that's the wish to not suffer. Now, the wish to not suffer and suffering are two different things. They're not the same. They don't feel the same. In fact, compassion feels like love. Compassion is very sweet. If you are not feeling a sweetness, a love in the compassion, and you're actually hurting, then you're actually suffering. So you can't do both at the same time. They're two different things. And keep your attention out of your thoughts about somebody else's suffering, because that's your own suffering. Okay, you can eliminate your own suffering about somebody else's suffering. You don't have to suffer at the same time. And in your suffering at the same time, it doesn't help them, not one iota. I've been the recipient of that, and it just tore my heart up. It made me worse. Honestly, it made me worse. Someone who's suffering cannot help someone stop suffering. The blind can't lead the blind. Okay? So learn your 5 powers, develop your mastery of them, keep your attention in the senses, feel love, feel compassion, and there might be tears with that, but there won't be suffering. Okay? Great question. Thanks for the hearts and the loves. Any other questions? I'll give you another few seconds. If anybody else has one, there's a bit of a time lag between what I see and what I say and what you type and what I see. So Lisa asks, any tips for helping us be present besides meditate? Oh no, that's an old one. It's an old question, Lisa, but I think you're asking it again. Yes. So I did answer it elsewhere, but I'm going to answer it again here because this is a live one. Yes. Why besides meditating and coming to your senses? Why besides that? Why? Are these not good enough? I'm wondering about this is you're not using it. Are you not using it? I answered more. I urge you to look up the other place you posted it because there's a bit more there for you. But why? This should be plenty, more than plenty. And if it's not, I would say you're not diving into it. You're not really doing it. You're not using it. It's sort of like if you had your hand in a hot pot of water and you said, well, okay, you've brought me a cold pot of water, but is there anything else? Is there anything else I can use? As your hand is in the hot water. Is there anything else? I see this cold pot here, but, well, do you have anything else? It's like, put your hand in. Put your hand in. Experience this. What needs to happen is do these practices. Lisa, you're in the program, so, and come to me and work with me live because you will get breakthroughs that will move you forward with these practices. If you're finding you're not getting traction with something, it's because there's something in the way. And you need to ask another question that will help you break through that. So you got it? All right. Okay, good. And then your other part of your question is, what are the ways we can balance our needs and to-do list with needs of others? Yeah, right on, eh? So again, stay out of the movie in the mind, because if you try to balance it in your mind, it's not going to work. You stay out, and then you will see everything. You'll see everything that needs to be done. You'll take into account the whole totality of everything. And you won't be in a story. It's only a story that limits you. Oh, I can't do that because of this, that, and the other. But if you stay out of the story and you look again, well, maybe I can. You know, some creativity, some ideas will come to you. But do not burn yourself out. You do not need to do everything for everybody. If you don't worry. They have a need, it'll get taken care of somewhere else. You're not the only one. This is what we have to come to realize. There can be this story, if I don't do it, nobody else will do it. Who's going to do it? No, no, no. So look for other ways, other resources, but you can only do that when you're not in a movie. You must step out of the movie, okay? Do that first. Make that your number one. Bring forward more detail on that with me on a live webinar, because you're in the program. You can do that on a Wednesday or a Saturday. And I can help you even better if you bring forward like a specific example. The more specific we are, the better. Thanks for your question. It's a great one. Okay, anybody else? I don't like to go until all questions, you know, burning, niggly questions are answered. So now's your chance. Feel free. Whatever's on your mind, because I'm going to be going. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be going. I'm expected at a dinner. So, oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for the questions. Great. Okay. With that, I'm going to head off. Time has flown by. I've enjoyed it. Love being here with you. Love the questions. Love the love. Love the compassion. Okay. Until we meet again, you know what to do. Keep it real.